What's going on, Rick? How you doing?
I'm doing good, my friend. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here, and this is special.
It is special. It's crazy.
This is a special moment, and just a preference for everybody. Rick reached out via email after he seen the News Channel 4 interview that I did, and I guess I impressed him.
Yeah, very much so.
I guess I impressed him, and he just reached out and said, "Hey, man, I love what you're doing. I had a unique upbringing and background, and view people and judge people maybe unrightfully so. And I've done a lot of growth, been to therapy and all those things. I was like, hey, let's talk about this.
Let's talk.
And he was like, let's do it, And so, welcome, Rick. Welcome to Deep Dish Conversations. And just tell the people a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, what you do, and just a little bit of who you are.
Simply put, I'm from Florida originally, North Florida, and grew up there, and then traveled some with my family and play music. I'm a bass player, and that's been a large part of my life. And then, in addition to that, I'm a guitar builder, and it's a funny thing. I never intended to do that for a living. It just worked out one day. I went, hey, this is what I do, and it had never even crossed. I never did woodworking or was interested in it when I was younger and stuff. So I've moved around the country, spent time as a youth in Hawaii, lived in South Florida. In the 80s, I moved to Oklahoma City and spent most of the decade there. Before finally coming to Nashville, my father was born in Tennessee, Adams, Tennessee, and I've always had a connection here. I've always liked it, and I've loved the town, and so I always knew I'd end up here. So in '89, I made the move and came here. So,
hey, you've been here just as long as me.
I love it, man. Yeah.
Been here just as long as me, and so I'm gonna jump right in here, Rick. One of the things that jumped out to me, and really made me want to speak with you is from the email. You said, I grew up in the South, and honestly, I wasn't pretty to people of color. Honestly, myself included at that. In the past few years, I found myself realizing how wrong this was. I'm no means perfect, but I'm learning. I would love to talk with you.
Yeah, that's, it sums it up that I can look back at things and, you just, you didn't realize, know, and then other times I did.
Right.
There's things that have happened in my youth and everything. And, but so many people, the South has a stigma anyway. I kind of don't agree with that. I think there's racism everywhere, but it's, it is what it is during that period. I mean, I was born in 1960, so, and lived down there. And, really, I mean, I can remember having, classmates that were black, and everything, and even, friends there and talk, we never hated each other or anything, but they never came home, or I never went to their house, and, and honestly, I mean, to be as blunt about it as possible, the town that I went to high school in, the black people actually lived on the other side of the railroad tracks. I mean, it was actually that, and you just, I never understood it, or I never thought about it.
What were some of the things, especially you had mentioned, just like people just in your community just didn't treat people of color, what was some of the things?
It was offhand comments, myself included, and the N-word, if you will, was a regular thing, and I mean, it just, you didn't think about it, and this, and I certainly never crossed my mind to hurt, but until one time, and I've told people about this before, and I'm not proud of it, but I'm being as honest as I can. Just it was pure ignorance, man.
This is a brave space. No,
I was probably 16 or 15, and I was with my best friend, and we were driving my dad's pickup truck home. We lived where I lived is a rural area, a lot of farm country and everything. And he had a gentleman there that worked for the county probably, but so like survey. And we had a little bit of land, not huge, but it was, it was quite a bit, but he was doing some surveying, and he had a gentleman working for him that was a young black man, older than me, by quite a bit. And as I drove by with our windows open, I made a comment to my friend, look, he's got him in.
Right.
And that, I said that. And being just a smart, aleck little punk,
Right.
well, that man heard me. And he had this big long survey stick. And next thing you know, when I got out of the car, he came over and he was crying. And he wanted to kick my butt. And the gentleman that was his boss and my dad, they said, he didn't say that. And I said, I didn't say that. But I saw the hurt in the guy's eyes. I saw what, and it, even then, I didn't really change the way I thought, but I knew I'd hurt somebody bad. It was just.
Why do you think, like yourself included, and people in your community just felt so comfortable?
It was
that way.
The way we were raised, and I look at it now and it's just, but I'm just being honest. My father was a very good man. He was a very loving man, but at the same time, he was a very hard man. And he dealt with a lot as growing up he lost his dad when he was 14 and he lived in Arkansas. And as he used to tell me, his kid, him and his brother were the ones that people told you to stay away from. He said they'd steal milk because they couldn't have milk, so they'd wait till they delivered milk and steal, and he grew up from this with this fierce devotion to success.
Right.
And he was successful, and but he was the kind of person that if you messed with him, he would crush you and make you regret,
Right.
And that meant family as well. He was a very hard man, but he was racist as could be. I just remember him embarrassing me, like in a restaurant or something. Dad,
right.
Don't say that,
Right.
At the same time, when I was younger, it seemed common.
Right.
I would have never. And this is the sad part about it. Even so, like that slipped out to that gentleman that was, I wish I'd see him today and I could tell him I'm sorry because but can't, but I knew better to say it in front of somebody because he'd kick your butt, so I knew it was wrong.
Right.
But still, it was it was there, and I just want to be as honest as I can about it,
Right.
And I saw that not just in the South, but other areas, and things like that. But that was I remember one time in South Florida, but this is when I was younger, our next door neighbor was like with Fort Lauderdale. We were going to the beach or something like that, and she had a little Toyota, and so she full of kids, and and there was no black people living in our neighborhood,
Right.
So we were more in the city, and we were still in the suburb where we lived, but her car broke down, and these 4 black guys start to come over, and it upset her. She like rolled up the window, and they just wanted to push her car out of the way and help her, and she cried. It embarrassed her so bad.
Right.
So again, I saw something there. Why were you acting that? I didn't feel threatened. You know what I'm saying? But it was just like, wow, this is interesting.
I think it just speaks to the indoctrination of just how this country, right, has just painted black folks, right, and just white supremacy and racism and all that is. And it's an indoctrination, right? That that we all are affected by and carry it in just different ways.
Well, it's funny that you meant white supremacists. That even then you could go, oh, those guys, oh, they're horrible, but yet we're doing the same thing. We're unwitting or wittingly. You know what I'm saying? Oh, those people are bad, but not. I don't. It's hard to call it being unaware, because it is you're aware,
right? So what have you done, like just going through that? What through your journey? What is some of the self work that you've done to make Rick a better person?
I've gone through some hard times in my life that changed me as a person spiritually. And I'm a Christian and been a Christian, but I've never really took that seriously till you experience something that's real rough and went through it. And then the love that people of every color that showed me, I started really soul searching, and I see so much of, with religion or Christianity, there's so many rules and, oh, this and this, but you can't wear this, you can do this, or, at one time I dated a lady that, I won't even mention it's another church, but they didn't allow music, and we broke up over that, and it was because I just couldn't see myself,
Right.
but when you strip all that away, you know, God is love. And when it comes down to it, it's about loving each other. It's about, I don't want to hurt you now.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't,
Right.
I'm more open to learning that. And that's just, and I mean, not just to black people, but
Right.
anybody,
Right.
the refugees coming in or the,
Right.
it's so, you get painted this picture of Muslim,
Right.
Muslim, this is, oh my gosh,
Right.
we're being overrun with, and then
Right.
you meet a Muslim person, and I had a gentleman one day. The church I was in, we were over in the Nations, and we were going through inviting people to go. And a black gentleman, I knocked on his, and it was primarily black area and everything. And he was very nice, and but kind of cool, and asked why we were doing this, and I said that. And as I started leaving, I had my kids with me, and he goes, you mind come back for a second? And he said, mind if I read you something? And he had the Quran, and he read it to me, and he goes, what do you think about that? And I said, it sounds like it's the Bible,
Right.
and then we just had a really cool conversation about
Right.
we're not so separate from each other.
Right.
We were more similar than we thought, even to the Quran. I've never read it, but there was things that that we could both relate to. And then he had mentioned that his grandmother and grandfather had lived in that neighborhood, and that I'll probably get this wrong, but I believe his grandmother was a nurse, and his father or his grandfather was a lawyer. Very predominant people in this neighborhood. And but now over time, the neighborhood had kind of gone down, and
Right.
and it almost struck me. I felt weird going to see him, because I don't know why, but it was like maybe I don't know. It was just I felt odd going over to, like I was trying to help him, and
Right.
and he was more or less saying, if you want to help, respect me,
Right.
And it was a good
Right.
lesson because
Right.
I'd never thought about it in that way,
Right.
and it just and that's all people.
Right.
Just show some respect, I mean,
And it's interesting. You bring up this Christianity and the Bible and religion. We had another guest, Linda Polk. Her grandfather actually used the Bible to show why black and white folks shouldn't be together. And so this Christianity in general as a religion has this this real just kind of tainted way, tainted history of white folks using the Bible to enslave
oh man, yeah.
black folks, do black folks wrong, and just using it based on religion.
No, that's
And it's crazy that same religion can also or that same Bible can also turn somebody around.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's a scary thing because I mean, I've after years of not doing it, I've actually managed to read through the Bible a couple times, and the first time it was with a more traditional, like King James version or something, and I read it, but a lot of it just didn't make sense,
Right.
And but you read some of that stuff, especially the Old Testament stuff. This is
Right.
just crazy, and the second time I got more of a more easier translated version, if you will, or whatever, and
Right.
it seems to have really helped along. But I look at the Bible and that's where there's so many cults. You can make it say whatever you want. You can pick something out of there, and
Right.
I mean, I just actually last night watched I love streaming TV, all these documentaries,
Right, right.
But there was one on David Koresh in Waco, and man, I mean,
Right.
you look at these times that how they can take the Bible and turn these words around, and
Right.
power's a dangerous thing. But you're
Right.
exactly right and white people came up. How can you
Right.
take that when I take it? You go all the way as God is love, faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. And I think religion is, and that's more I look, versus what I believe, versus religion.
Right.
In Oklahoma, I went to a church with my first wife, and it ended badly, and I didn't go to church for years, and
Right.
it was really me being the problem, but
Right.
I didn't want to see it that way then.
Right.
But religion has damaged a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that can't stand Christians for this very thing, and whatever denomination or religion in general, it has hurt so many people.
Right. Well, if you can go back to your community that you grew up in today, if you can go back and prevent some of the indoctrinations that was placed upon you, your family, and the people that you grew up with, what would be some of those changes that you would make?
Definitely just take a stand. I mean, polite but firm stand on, and sometimes it probably wouldn't be polite, like,
Right.
hey, dude, that's not cool, or this is, meet my black buddy here, my black, which, I like, we had that conversation is that even as a white person, it seems funny, is it okay to, refer to somebody as black? I hope that it is, but, I mean, because, I had black schoolmates that we were friends, but we weren't, we didn't hang out, but I could have never, I don't know what my dad would have done if I ever brought a black friend over. My dad, my dad would hit the ceiling because he would, interracial marriage or dating and everything. And back when I was in high school, that was, very off the table,
Even now,
Oh no,
even now it's more you see it more, of course, we've grown, but still people still
they're still
some people still cringe at
well,
that.
I used to tell my dad, he'd say something about that. I said, Dad, one day we're just all going to be one nationality.
Right.
There's not going to be black and white. We're just going to be, and he'd hit the ceiling about that. I mean, it made him so mad.
And know what's funny about we are one nationality.
Oh, we are. Well, we are.
That's the thing.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, we are. We are Americans, right? That's the nationality.
You hit it right there.
But the foundation of this country is black and white, and that's kind of the lens you have to wear, and because that's the reality that we live in, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but that's the reality.
Well, it really, and I've looked at all these things, and then from even from a white perspective, and I'm just being honest. I don't want to. I certainly don't want to offend anybody.
No, this is a brave space. Rick.
But to go up and why should he get the job? If I'm just as qualified, he gets it because he's black. That's not right. This is my perspective growing up, or anything like that, or I'm hurting too. But they get but I'm not even taking into account what's happened in the past and how it's been looked upon and
white privilege and all that stuff.
Huge, and we were. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, and just didn't. My favorite thing that kind of gets me, and I don't mean to be rude to people or anything like that, but when somebody goes, I just wish it was like the good old days. I remember we didn't have to lock doors. Everybody got along, and in my mind, I'm going, that might be your good old days, but guess what? You were just oblivious to what was going on down the street. I mean, it was
that can be a very insensitive phrase to use.
Oh no, yeah, but I see people use it all the time. I just miss the way things used to be. Well, it was maybe in your part of the world it was nice, but I guarantee you it was. I mean,
you have kids.
Yes.
What are you doing, or what have you done to make sure that they kind of grow up with an anti-racist mindset?
I've done my best to encourage them with black friends, or friends of color, or anybody. I mean, I've always been open. Dating or relationships. My son, he's 25 now. He's married, but he lived in Memphis for a while, and he dated a black girl for a while, and that was, hey, we never. It was a period that he was not close. We'd had a falling out, but still, I never good. I'm glad you found someone.
You always encourage.
My daughter's the same way. Exactly. We're all the same. I mean, I would never hesitate. And again, where we grew up, where they grew up, where I live now and stuff, there's still that division, which is sad. But I mean, it's. I've kind of looked at, you know, like, as I mentioned to you earlier, when all this went down, you know, and the Black Lives Matter, I found myself, and it almost became comical trying to reach out to black friends and going, well, you know, I need to get more black friends. I need to do, and
Right.
I finally come to realization that's not what it's about. You know, I mean,
Right.
I'm not. It's more respecting each other. I would love to have a black friend, and if it works, but different reasons, you know, geographical
Right.
or whatever, you know.
Right. But the killing of a George Floyd or something like that shouldn't be like, oh, now I gotta get black friends.
Oh yeah, it was wrong.
Right.
I mean, I approached it the wrong way and everything. To see that on TV and how could that not affect anybody? How could that not tear somebody's heart out? What happened there?
Right.
You know.
Right.
And it, you know, all of it. You know, I'll be quite honest. When Colin Kaepernick kneeled, it pissed me off. You know, I was like, wait a minute,
Right.
you're disrespecting, you know. And I have friends, you know, who are military veterans. I was never in the military, you know.
Right.
And I said, well, you know, I understand he's trying to prove a point, but it's not right. Good, they fired him and all this. And now I've realized he did the right thing. He did something really brave. And
You learn
the nation,
we learn
I look at it
and
like
grow.
this: the nation need to be bitch slapped. It was, you know,
Right.
we needed something that
Right.
shocking, you know, which is that shocking? But
Right.
to white America, it was, you know, well, this
Right.
is not what we do. We can't. You're disregarding.
And-
You know what? He was right.
Right.
And it took. Now I look at it and go, yeah, that dude was pretty brave, man. You know.
And I, you know, I hope everybody's appreciating your honesty and your braveness to come out and just admitting, like, hey, I looked at things.
I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm just being honest.
Yeah,
You know, just trying to tell. You
and
know.
and this is what this space for, because there are people that probably come from similar backgrounds that start and probably still have the thinking that you did in the past, and this is a way, one, to show, hey, that you can have a different outlook, and two, they're like, there's still time for you to learn and grow.
Oh, man, yeah,
right.
that's
And you don't have to stay the same forever, and you're living proof of that. And I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty, and you just being brave and just coming on here and just coming out loud and saying, hey, that, you know, I had one perspective and I had to learn and grow and go through my journey. And it was a process. And as we talked before, you know, it's hard for a lot of people to come out and do that because of this, you know, this cancel culture and being, you know, just and not feeling comfortable to be out, to be able to just have open dialogue about some things and learning and growing, especially without it being a debate, a heated. What we having is a dialogue, right?
Right.
And we're both being vulnerable, and we're both just talking as men with our own perspectives and journeys, and trying to learn and grow from each other, and just showing that we all can learn and grow. And I'm glad that, you know, I'm glad that you're here, Rick. I
Appreciate it.
No,
I'm glad to be here. I saw this and I was impressed with what you were doing. I went and watched a couple episodes you had there, and I was like, okay, this is, because, you know, I have questions as a white guy. You know what I'm saying? And,
right.
you know, and the one thing now, I do want to say something. And once again, I don't want to be controversial or anything, but
Right.
white people ain't all bad either. You know, I mean, there's a lot
Right.
of good people and a lot of good caring people, but
Right.
but even in, you know, I've seen people that some of the nicest people in the world and had a conversation and go, oh, well, I don't, you know, I have nothing against black people, I can nothing, you know, and all this, and I actually, you know, but then they'll throw a phrase at the end, you know, if so and so, but if they have a problem, but that's their problem, you know, and
Right.
so it's like, you're not there yet, you know, but
And we need more people like you, just as a society, but as like this, as somebody that can be an ally to blacks going forward and people of color. Like it's different when you go into people's homes at people's kitchen table and saying, no, you kind of being discriminatory against black people or people of color. That's wrong, right? It's different when it comes from you, because they expect it to come from me.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Of course,
When
I'm
they
going
look
to
at-
say
yeah.
it. But if a friend or a family member of yours and you say that to them, we need more of that.
Yeah.
Like we need more. We need, like, if it's one like that, we need that honesty, and we need the honesty to go towards our the grandfathers and the moms and dads.
Yeah.
It might be tough. It might be rough.
Oh, no,
but we need more Ricks out there to tell it like it is and tell it how it was, and go and explain your growth to some of your friends and family members that still may be in that thinking.
And still to try to do it with love and respect.
Right.
Man, you're my brother.
Right.
I think the world of you, but that's not,
Right.
um,
Exactly. And so
it,
I want to talk on this too, Rick. You had mentioned that you had been to therapy. How did that how did that really help you transform and become a better human being, a better person? And would you recommend that for other people that may have your background, your journey, or just struggling?
absolutely. That's, I grew up that therapy was a joke. It was just, you don't need therapy. Grow up, be a man, man
Right,
up,
right.
and all this. And it worked, but it didn't. Things come up inside and you look at your, growing up. And I started kind of recognizing that. And I went through a period in my life when I was just angry at everybody. And I did it for so long. And then even growing up later on, I realized going back and visiting people that I was kind of a jerk to people, and people would make comments. I was like, did I say that? Or, and that didn't even racist. It's just almost privileged or something, and
Right.
For me to, I didn't seek therapy until I'd went through some period. My father passed, and he had gone through Alzheimer's, and then while he was sick, my wife, we had 3 kids, got leukemia, and she ended up passing away. They passed away about a month apart, and it was, and I took in the beginning, and it was amazing that this is part of what changed my life, is so many people reached out, but in the beginning, I had my kids take therapy, and because that's okay, they need it. I'm going to tough it out, And then even when I got remarried to a wonderful lady, there were still problems, and there was problems. The kids were having problems, and I still was taking them to therapy. Well, finally, I decided to see a therapist, and it was one that was one of my daughters was seeing, and we really didn't hit it off. It was not good,
Right.
and so I kind of blew it off again, but problems kept happening, and
Right.
I could not do things. I have ADHD real bad anyway, but I just couldn't. I was depressed. I couldn't get control of things or try to, I struggled with feeling like a failure all the time,
Right.
I so finally I had a friend that I went to church with. Became a mentor to me, this gentleman, and he was in charge, or he worked with an organization that had a rehabilitation therapy like camp. It was a 2-week thing, and
Right.
he actually got me a scholarship, and I went down to Orlando for 2 weeks to this thing, and it was somewhat Christian, but there was also different kinds of religions or things, in all the way to a lot of meditation
Right.
and yoga, but different things, and so. And some of it got pretty strange, but I went with the thing that it certainly won't hurt.
Right.
I'm at the end of my rope. My wife and I were talking about getting a divorce. We just,
Right.
things had just gotten so bad. And it was interesting to me because when we first got there, there was, they took your cell phone. There was no computer,
Right.
no alcohol, anything, you were just straight up. And, they told us to write down, memories of our childhood. And I immediately had a great childhood, Look, we had clothes, ate great Christmases, and all this stuff. And then they started one-on-one therapy and really working on things. And suddenly I started seeing things that I had blown off as before. They talked about my mom, that I can remember as a child. I can remember my oldest sister. And again, this is going to sound racist, but we had an older black lady that came over and helped mom with the laundry, and she's a sweetheart. But still,
Right. The optics of
and
that.
my mom loved her to death, and
Right.
stuff like that. But it was just that era,
Right.
But I can remember her taking care of me, and I can remember my older sister. I don't remember my mom, and started looking to things, and some of them my mom dealt with a lot of depression in her life and a lot of things, and and I started seeing a pattern here where she was there, but she wasn't. She was dealing with her things,
Right.
and then, I love my dad. My dad was in so many ways a great man, and in his own way, he loved, but he he could almost be a monster. He used love as a weapon. He used intimidation, verbal abuse, never physical. I mentioned to my middle sister one time, I said, I I was never really good at sports. And I said, I always, would love to have maybe done better with that. And she said, well, how could you be when you were told that, you're fat, you're worthless, you're no good. And suddenly I was like, oh crap, that did happen. My dad he wanted me to be an all-star.
Right.
And when I didn't do that, I mean, it was very much, if he was mad at you, he'd tear you down with words. He would bring everything he could to hurt you. And he did it with my mom. He withheld love. He used that as a weapon. If he was mad with her, he wouldn't kiss her goodbye or talk to her. He'd sit all night and listen to the radio and sports and TV and the newspaper and not even talk to her. So I started seeing these things, man, and it was. And again, I mean, I still had a good life, but in other ways it was pretty messed up. And I started connecting to the reason why I act the way I do, and so that was just an awakening for me. Since then, I've found an excellent therapist that my wife and I both see. We've soldered together and apart, and I have a psychiatrist too. I mean, it's been life-changing. I've been able to do things.
You're doing the work.
But it's opening my, why am I this way? And going, wait a minute, and that's not a pity thing or anything. It's I deal with emotional health things. That's it, but it's working, it's made me a better person.
No, you're doing the work, and that's what this is about. It's about becoming a better person for yourself, but also for community. And it's a journey. And whether you start at 30 years old, if you start at 50 years old, long as you start, it'll be better for society. And my mantra is change yourself, change your community, change your world. And you're following that process.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I want to close with this, Rick. We're gonna have to do a part 2.
Man. We
got to bring Rick a part 2.
Absolutely, man. Very much.
Well, I want to close this. One is that I truly believe it's for white folks to do work on white folks. And so if you're a viewer, watcher, a supporter of mine, and you're a white person, a non-person of color, link up with Rick, and y'all can do the work together. Or vice versa, if you want to do some work with Rick, reach out to Rick, because I really believe that's where the best work is done, when white folks can work on white folks. I don't believe it's black folks to work on white folks. I think it's white folks to work on white folks. And lastly, I want to leave it to you, Rick. Is there anything else that before we do part 2, is there anything else that you want to kind of close with and just leave with the watchers and the viewers?
I'm a huge believer in just, it's so simple. Love wins. Okay. It can be saying hi to somebody, or I'm really big on that. I don't have to like you to love you. It's, I might disagree with you. I might, but at the end, it's, our job in life to lift people up, to love on people. And it's so simple, but it gets so mixed up, and then, but what about this? But he did this. Chill. We're all guilty of doing this or that, and I think it's just making notice if somebody's there. Look people in the eye, say hi. There's so many small acts that can make a difference.
Do the work, everybody. And that goes across all ethnic race groups. Do the work, reflect. And Rick, I really appreciate you, and I hope people appreciate your honesty and your bravery to open up and talk about your flaws, your past, your upbringing, and the journey to become the person, the Rick that you are today. The Rick that was big enough to email me and appreciate what I was doing and have a conversation, which maybe, 20, 30 years ago, maybe this Rick wouldn't have, you wouldn't have done it. So that's growth.
There's some growth there, man.
Yeah. And like you said, and people that might be watching this, we don't all have to agree, but we all don't have to agree on different views and points, which is okay, but we can respect each other and understand that if we have intentions of trying to impact the community in a positive way, intentions in growing and learning, hey, we can have a conversation any day. So Rick, I appreciate you. Thanks, and everybody. Part 2 is coming.
I love it.
But definitely
All right.
reach out to Rick. Yeah, Rick, I appreciate it, man.
I
Thanks.
enjoyed meeting you. This has been really good, man.
And
Thank you.
oh no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. And so that's it. That's a
I
wrap.
do. Till next time.